Well, ladies and gentlemen, Arizona has hired another coach from Buffalo. What could possibly go wrong? Damon and I are going to break it all down on the AZ Wildcats podcast in 30 seconds. Don't you go anywhere.
Welcome on into the AZ Wildcats podcast, live from Studio K, presented by our friends at Circle K. And Kevin, I love Studio K, brother. We do not get to be in here very often. I'm usually in the big, spacious Studio A, which is a great studio. Looks fantastic. We love our friends at Empire Today that, of course, provide us with our beautiful flooring in there, Kevin. But it gets a little lonely sitting there by myself in the big studio, no one around. This is a much more intimate environment for the people here at that are watching at home, Kevin.
Yeah, this is much more of a marketplace of ideas. You know what I mean? This is much more of a place where you and I can sit down, really hash things out if we need to. And we're in, like you said, we're in an enclosed environment, free from all the other, freaks that we work with. And so, yeah, Damon, it feels safe in here. It feels good. It feels secure.
Certainly does, Kevin. And Arizona basketball has secured its newest head coach. You like that? That's for the professionals. But shout out to everybody here watching. We appreciate everybody. Make sure you guys drop a like on this video. We're pumped up to talk a little women's basketball. Pumped to talk a little bit of fallout with Braden Burries' commitment yesterday, Kevin. And it's always interesting in the world of Arizona, isn't it?
It really is. You and I were talking about how in June and July, you and I are going to be strapped for information, strapped for news, I should say, rather than information. And Arizona, making sure we have stuff to talk about as always. And Becky Burke is on everybody's, minds right now as Arizona's new women's basketball head coach. David in the chat here says, I love the women's basketball hire and all the women's basketball talk. And I will say, for better or worse, women's basketball has been the talk of the town in Tucson for the past lion's share of 2 weeks now, right, Damon?
Yeah.
I mean, ever since Arizona men's basketball was eliminated from the tournament, the attention's flipped very fast to Arizona women's basketball and who was going to lead the ship, who was going to captain the ship, so to speak, of the women's basketball program, and they had their hire. It's Buffalo's Becky Burke.
Yeah. And David, I will say, David's one of my friends that I went to journalism school with. He is locked in on women's basketball. So David, of course, covers the Mercury. Check out his work, David Veenstra. But yeah, it's one of those situations where, I feel like obviously Arizona wasn't working with the biggest purse in terms of hiring a new coach, Kevin. I mean, you could see that with the candidate pool. But at the same time, I think there's reason to be excited and optimistic about this hire. It's not. I think we can be honest in the fact that it's not maybe the level of a hire that you would expect at a power program like Arizona, especially a program that was in the national championship 4 years ago. But Becky Burke continues to go everywhere, Kevin, and kind of, reinvigorate whichever program she takes over. She takes over in bad situations and she gets the teams back on track, right? And I've heard a lot of people talk about, she does that through instilling a great culture, which obviously, there's been a lot of rumors regarding Arizona women's basketball and somewhat of culture problems around the program. But I think that hopefully this is the avenue and the path to fixing that and alleviating kind of some of that pressure here. Do I expect Arizona women's basketball to be contending for the Big 12 next season? I don't. There's essentially one player on the roster as of right now, Kevin. And even that one's semi up in the air because Montea Duke could potentially medically retire still. But it seems as though she wants to stay close to home. So we have one player. And, Becky Burke has her work cut out for her in terms of, getting a full roster together, as Kevin puts on the screen.
That's it. That's the entire women's basketball program right there. We got 4 coaches and a player. That's it.
Yep. That certainly is it. And I do want to say that, like, I think that Arizona's already going to be cooking on the transfer portal because they don't have any other choice, right? Like, we're going to start seeing a flurry of transfers, visitors, and whatnot come in to visit this women's basketball program because, you know, you got to work fast. And Becky Burke did tweet this, you know, in her introductory tweet, you know, to the people in Tucson and the Arizona fans everywhere, saying, incredibly grateful to be the head coach of Arizona women's basketball. Thank you to Desiree Reed-Francois for trusting me to lead this program. I would say I'm ready to get to work, but I'm already a few hours in.
Loved that.
I do love that. But I will say that, and I bet you Becky Burke is a grinder because it's impossible to not be a grinder at programs like Buffalo and
South Carolina upstate.
Turn them into 30 win a season type programs, right? And that's a good sign to see. But I would just, you know, I think it just goes to show there, and I know a lot of coaches would be doing something similar, Kevin, but just saying the fact that I would say I'm ready to get to work, but I'm already a few hours in. It goes to show how fast all of this moves and how you just got to strike quick when you get the opportunity, because Arizona's going to have to start putting together a roster right now and fast if they want to get some high quality players on the team.
I mean, look, Damon, we saw it last year. I know it's a different sport, but the principle is still the same. Brent Brennan, a lot of the failures, obviously there were multiple failures last year with Arizona football. Yeah. But one of the main things that he couldn't really control was the lack of time he had to generate talent and acquire talent from the transfer portal. He got here very late. And so if you're Becky Burke, right, you're probably feeling that same pressure of like, all right, I'm behind in the portal. Like 4 of her players entered the portal. I don't know if you saw that, Damon, but 4 Buffalo players, Mallory Daly, Kirsten Lewis-Williams, Paula Lopez, and McKenna Schaefer all entered the portal. And Raul there adds, probably not uncoincidentally, which I think is fairly accurate to say. If you're Becky Burke, you're right. Like you gotta nose to the grindstone immediately as soon as you land in Tucson.
I looked at some of those players, Kevin, that you named there. I did some quick research on them. And I'll be honest, and maybe this will come back to bite me a little bit because I think that there's a good chance that all 4 of those players do potentially come to Arizona. I think Kirsten Lewis-Williams is really the only one that I would happily take on this program. She's a sophomore guard that averaged 13.6 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, 3.1 assists, and did so on 49.1% shooting, which for a guard in women's college basketball, Kevin, is extremely efficient scoring. I think that's the name out of those 4 that I'm looking at and going, that needs to be an Arizona Wildcat. Outside of her, I'm kind of hoping we go in a little bit of other directions. But to be fair, you got to fill a roster of like 15 scholarships, and one of those is taken up right now. So even if you give some of the, maybe you're throwing it to some role players that maybe you don't necessarily think will factor in fully to the team and playing a ton of in Big 12 play, maybe it's somewhat of a culture shift in getting people in the building that Burke thinks is, going to be people that are going to help uplift this program and get it on the right track, even if they're not necessarily Arizona caliber players.
No, certainly. And when I looked through those players as well, Damon, I mean, you kind of alluded to it, but I just wanted to clarify this for everybody. Not only is Kirsten Lewis statistically the best player by a lot of the 4 players that entered the portal, she's the only one that averaged more than, like, I'll be generous and say 3 points a game.
Paula Lopez 2.6, Mallory Daly 1.2, and then who was the other one?
It was, our 4 players here were Mallory Daly, Kirsten Lewis-Williams, Paula Lopez, and McKenna Schaefer. And McKenna Schaefer averaged 0.6. Yeah. So, I mean, again, we don't know like what the ceiling on all these players are, but if you're trying to build a program back, Damon, I think that Kirsten Lewis-Williams is a player that you got to secure if you're Becky Burke. I mean, 13.5 points, 5.5 rebounds at the guard position. Yeah. 3 assists as well. So kind of a do-it-all guard in that respect. Also averages, Damon, Kirsten Lewis-Williams averaged 2.5 steals a game this past year as well. So this is, I mean, kind of your Jada Williams in a way. The Kirsten Lewis-Williams could be your Jada Williams next season. Obviously not the exact same player, but if you're talking about a guard that can score for you, defend for you, like Kirsten Lewis-Williams needs to find her way to Arizona next season. From the Arizona perspective, at least, right?
And it's one of those situations too where it's similar to Brent Brennan, and there was, Javion Cole, who's now currently on the roster, but when he entered the portal last year from San Jose State, he went to Texas, right? And I think for me, that was somewhat eye-opening about Brent Brennan in the football program in terms of being like, if we can't get the guys that we have established, built relationships with, that's concerning, right? That raises your eyebrows a little bit, Kevin, and just kind of makes you think for a second, is this the right person to lead this program? Do they have the juice from a recruiting standpoint? And obviously, they fixed that and they mended that fence, and Javion Cole is now an Arizona Wildcat, but it was just an example, right? I feel similarly about Lewis Williams. It's like if Becky Burke doesn't get Lewis Williams to come to Arizona, is that concerning for you? Because I that would raise some question marks for me personally.
It would raise a lot of question marks for me, Damon. I don't know if it would raise my concern any higher than it already is for the state of the women's basketball program. You know what I mean? When you have one roster player, like, my expectations are pretty bottom of the barrel low. And if you're Kirsten Lewis-Williams, I said should be from the Arizona perspective, like, she should find her way to an Arizona uniform next season. But again, with the era of NIL, like, if you did what you did at Buffalo and there's a better opportunity for you financially out there, I'm not going to necessarily begrudge you for, chasing that bag in lieu of coming to a program like Arizona that currently has one scholarship player.
Yeah.
Right. So it would raise some question marks in terms of, how Becky Burke was not able to secure that when you do have all the NIL purse available to you because you don't have any scholarship players. But again, I think there's just more context to it, right? Like, this is a program that is entering a full reset mode, right? And I have this in our rundown, like this, like, what is Becky Burke walking into in Arizona women's basketball? And I think that there's a lot of reasons why. Like, I know our girl Erica L. Day in the chat and on Twitter was kind of going on about how even mid-major coaches are turning down Arizona. What does that say about the job that it is? And it does say that I don't know if it says that it's a bad job, but I think what those mid-major coaches are identifying is, am I better off continuing to try to build this program I'm at right now and maybe get a established D1 job later, not D1, but Power 5 job later down the line, or do I go Power 5 now in a full reset mode with one roster player and a fan base that is kind of up in the air in terms of whether or not they're going to continue support if it's not Adia Barnes, right? So you're entering a program with high player turnover that just kind of got out of a tumultuous, cultural situation with the team, and you gotta fully build that from the ground up, like, starting day one. Like, you're not walking into anything established if you're Becky Burke. So while yes, mid-major coaches and some coaches that maybe you think should have leapt onto the Arizona job didn't, I agree that it's a red flag for the health of the program. But I don't think that it shows that it's a bad job. I just think right now the state of the job is so difficult.
Yes.
That is it really worth the pay bump to totally factory reset all the progress you've made as a coach in that way, right? And I think Becky Burke jumped at the idea because Becky Burke is a builder. Like, Becky Burke builds programs.
Becky the builder.
Yeah, Becky the builder that builds. Dang, I was gonna try to go for like 5 Bs. It's hard to do. But hey, I'm gonna need you to log off. Becky Burke led one of the best turnarounds in South Carolina upstate history. Went 30-23 in 2 seasons there, but they were picked 10th in the Big South that season. Finished number 3 overall in a first-round bye in the conference tournament. Not only that, but at Buffalo this past season, she won 30 games and won the WNIT. Lost in the semifinals of the MAC conference tournament as well this year as a 3 seed again. So Becky Burke builds programs. That is what this coach does. Yep. I think that's a lot of the reason why DRF likely, leaned in this direction. Who is someone that is familiar starting from the bottom, succeeds starting from the bottom, and is willing to chase that, is willing to get on that grind, as you said earlier, Damon.
Yeah, and I heard someone else make this point, and it was a good one. Desiree has done a good job in terms of hiring women's basketball coaches with her past jobs, right? As David puts in here, Becky the Builder, can she fix it?
Yes, she can.
But I do want to say that like this is a Desiree hired, and I think a lot of people wanted LaRock from UNLV, right? That was one of the more popular names that were in the candidate pool that people were kind of locked in on. And that was a Desiree hire. That was part of the reason that she not only, and I've heard some people say that she's Lute's granddaughter. I was talking to my parents yesterday, and so we'll source them, and they can be wrong on this if this is not true, but they said goddaughter actually. And they told me that they're pretty sure that was the case. So it's one of those two. But a relationship with Lute, that's as far as to say she has a relationship with Lute Olson and the Olson family. And she was hired by Desiree. So it was interesting that like she was so quick to turn it down, right? But that was a Desiree hire, and that has to bring you some confidence. Desiree hired a coach at Missouri who was pretty successful as well. So maybe she does a pretty good job when vetting these coaches and finding the right person to bring out in the program. But obviously Arizona wasn't working with the craziest pool of candidates, Kevin, as we've talked about. But I think that given the resources that they had and the people that were available to them, you can talk yourself into Becky Burke and what she provides and kind of the upside of that hire, right? Because it does feel like there is a very clear upside with Becky Burke.
You want to talk about upside? Not only is Becky Burke a program builder, but Burke is also young. 35 years old. Adia Barnes is not a very old head coach, at only 48, right? Mm-hmm. But that's 13 more years on Becky Burke. Like, you are getting someone who, like I said, builds programs. You're kind of buying low on Burke right now at this age, and 30 under 30 for the Women's Basketball Associations, the Coaches Association, 30 under 30 in 2019. She was the only head coach to appear on the executive list as well, the exclusive list. So, yeah, I mean, Becky Burke is kind of a diamond in the rough kind of find on paper.
Yeah.
Right now, whether that translates to on the court is yet to be seen, because this is her first step up into real Power 4, Power 5 basketball.
And I think it's going to be a process.
It is going to be a process, right? It's not going to all click day one, probably not even day two, probably not even month two, Damon Dog. But like I said, this is, young coach who is a grinder, who has proven that they can do more with less in the past. Yep. And that's kind of the situation they're walking into. It's a huge opportunity for Becky Burke. If Becky Burke can succeed at Arizona, that's massive for her reputation and her resume. As a, kind of, this is like her real first foray into serious women's college basketball. Like, she played at a high level. She participated in Final Four teams at Louisville back in the day. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, nothing of this level at the coaching ranks for Becky Burke. So it's going to be interesting to see how that translates from mid-major to major.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. And, walking in, you make the point of like not really with the same resources and needing to kind of uplift this program and play with, somewhat of a smaller purse than a lot of the schools that we're competing with. I mean, you look at TCU going out and getting Olivia Miles, and they got, Van Lith last year. Like, TCU has insane amounts of money for their women's basketball NIL. You look at a team like Iowa State getting Jada Williams, having Audi Crooks on their team, right? Like, that's a school that obviously can pay a lot of money for their women's basketball program. I think Baylor is similar, right? So like, there are schools in this conference in the Big 12 that Arizona is never going to really compete with financially, Kevin. And they tried, and I think Desiree found out that was unsustainable. And it sucks, but I think that's kind of the culmination of what happened with the Adia Barnes situation, is paying a coach top 10 money at Arizona for not getting top 10 results, paying recruits that are, the number one class in the country 2 years ago. Like, that kind of stuff was unsustainable at Arizona. So we have to drop down a little bit. And, that's where Becky Burke's past history as a builder of a program that's dealt with less resources makes you feel good and fills you with some confidence, right? Erica says Iowa State is poor. I don't know how they did that. It must have been an act of God for real. I find that hard to believe. They do. I mean, I know Arizona is kind of poor too, and we have the second best attendance in the conference, but Iowa State packs that house up. Like they have the best fan support in the Big 12 by a lot. That's shocking that they're poor like that. But
shout out to Devin Hall.
Shout out to Devin Hall. They do have a great program, though. I will say Iowa State is a very, very good program. Good thing
very
going
talented,
right now.
too.
Oh,
Audie
yeah.
Crooks, Jada Williams.
Yeah.
Talked about the freshmen coming in, so, yeah.
Yep, absolutely. But, you know, it's sad the way that everything culminated with Adia and kind of the fall of this program from what we thought was a really sustainable, you know, pasture, Kevin. But we are where we are now, and it's the best thing that we can do is, I think, uplift Becky Burke, support this program, and I hope that the fans do the same because I know that they were so connected to Adia, right? Adia had such a great connection with this fan base. That was in part why it felt like maybe you wanted to keep her around, right? Because she puts butts in seats. I hope Becky Burke gets that same grace from this fan base because I think we've shown we have the potential to be a great women's basketball fan base, one of the best in the country, definitely one of the best on the West Coast, if not the best. But, you know, there's a change in process here. Can we just keep that level of continuity going for the program, even if it's a rough year one, because there's a very potential chance that it is. But I think that you just need to see some progress. And then if there is sustained progress, you can really buy into that.
Yeah, and fans' first opportunity to get to fall in love with the coach that is Becky Burke will be this Friday, tomorrow, April 11th at 4 p.m. Will be the introductory press conference for Becky Burke tomorrow. So make sure to tune into that. We'll have some clips from that as well, I believe. So, yeah, first opportunity to hear what Coach Becky Burke sounds like as Arizona embarks on this new journey to try to rebuild from pretty much ground zero, Damon. And one of the ways that Arizona can do that is by securing massive talent in the transfer portal. And now some of Arizona's best talent from last season has already entered the transfer portal. But that does not mean
all of it.
Yes, true. But that does not. That's very true. But that does not mean that some of it might not come back. You know, if you love something, let it go, and if it comes back, then it's meant to be. And if Lauren Swan continues to follow Coach Becky Burke on social media, again, this is just speculation. This is just some rumor mill type junk. But also, if it's real, I would love it to be real, Damon. Because if Lauren Swan could come back, that is, like Chris Brown says of AZ Bandcat Sports here, shout out to Chris Brown, Sea Breeze, that if Lauren Swan does come back, that is a player that you can rebuild around. That is a player that you can focus your roster construction on. She is that good. Mm-hmm. She is that quality. So if Burke can rebuild, I don't know if that's the right word, but just cultivate a relationship further with Lauren Swan before Swan chooses her next location, that could be huge.
Absolutely.
As Erica says there as well, it would be huge.
Absolutely.
For Arizona.
There's no doubt about that. And that's another thing. Like I talk about the Brent Brennan situation, obviously, that was kind of what filled you with confidence in Brent Brennan, right? Is he was able to sustain the roster, not fully, but a large portion of it from what Jade Fish had.
Right? It's different because it's football. You know what I mean? Like he was never going to keep all of them. But to your point, he kept like if you were going to have a short list of guys to keep, he pretty much kept them all. Yeah, he pretty much kept them all. So.
Yeah, like Jonah Coleman and like Ephesians Prysock were like the two main ones that walked out the door, right? And most of the other guys you felt were like semi-replaceable, like the Anthony Wards and the freshman class that Arizona had culminated that never really even stepped on campus yet, but flipped to Washington. But I think that this would just fill you with a lot of confidence that Becky Burke has that juice that I'm talking about, Kevin. Like if she can get Lauren Swan back and be the face of this program and just kind of like, juice this fan base up a little bit, that would be incredible. And that would definitely get me like, okay, all right.
Turn me up.
We might have something here. And yeah, I certainly hope that happens. Luis says Swan is awesome. Would be huge to get her back. And Brian says Swan is good, gets hurt too much. She needs to build up a body for punishment. Yeah. She's
only a freshman.
Yeah. Young player, hopefully, gets back into it. My mom would be amped, Erica. And of course we're going to get Erica on, I think tomorrow, right, Kevin? I did hit up Erica and say, we need her on the show to give her thoughts on the women's basketball hire. And I want to hear, Erica with we need to get Erica in front of a mic here.
Correct.
And for all the losers out there that are coming at our girl, Relax a little bit. What?
I can't laugh over
no,
here?
you're like, oh God. Like
because
you're like
you never know when someone else is talking. You never know the next word. I mean, hey.
I'm pretty. You know, I might have dropped.
You're pretty sane. Yeah,
I might have dropped an F-bomb on talking a little bit of Duke ball, but in general, I feel like I've been pretty professional.
You want to be the worst guy to have Duke bring the worst out of you. I'll say that much. That's true there, Damon. But I also wanted to say, you want to talk about Burke possibly having juice, potentially, you know, showing off that that she can recruit and keep major players at Arizona. I think what that would show me, and most importantly, is that the culture is already shifting, right? If Lauren Swan, and I know this might be a shot in the dark, this might be a much farther reach than we think based off of her just following a coach on social media. Don't know when she followed her, don't know under what, you know what I mean? Don't know under what circumstances. But I'll say this much. If Becky Burke can recruit players like Lauren Swan or get a Lauren Swan to come back, I think it indicates that the culture has already shifted because Lauren Swan experienced last season.
Yeah.
Lauren Swan experienced Adia Barnes. Lauren Swan experienced some locker room pettiness, I'll say at the very least, right? So I think that it would indicate that Becky Burke can relate to these players. Like I said, just 35 years old. Adia Barnes is not an old woman. She's only 48. Right. But that 13-year difference, you and I were talking about it yesterday in relation to some not safe for show, you know, some topics, but shout out to Cult Cannabis. But, I like just 1 year of difference sometimes can make all the world in relating to the younger generation because you might miss some things. You might miss some references. Right.
Yeah.
Being 35, does that, you think, give her even more leeway to be relatable to these players because you're just that much closer to them than Adia was. So I think it could be a huge sign, not only for the program of Lauren Swan coming back, but if Lauren Swan was to choose to come back, I think it's huge. It boosts my confidence in Becky Burke, the recruiter, because it shows that she can relate to players, even in tough circumstances, like trying to get someone to come back to a program that might have potentially left them with a sour taste in their mouth.
Yeah. Brian says we still need to beat ASU and not lose to NAU and GCU.
Preach.
That's a fact. I think GCU right now is one of those programs that like they feel like they're just a trampoline, and that's kind of why Gandy took that job right after Molly Miller trampolined her way to Arizona State. Like, you know, I think Gandy is set up to be the next big head coach hire at a program that needs it right after GCU probably makes the tournament again next year. So I don't know how sustainable GCU's program is, but it does feel like that they're operating on a money level, Kevin, that is wildly different than the rest of their conference. And as long as that continues to be the case until they move conferences in the next, I don't know exactly when that change is happening, but they're going to switch conferences here in a couple years or so. Things might change then, but as of right now, it seems as though GCU is just going to continue to pump money into that program. NAU lost their coach, I believe, and we'll see. I mean, that could be a big deal for them, but ASU, you know, Molly Miller, like she's got all the hype. Is she going to be year one, the success that everybody, you know, has kind of, you know, has put these expectations on her? We're going to find that out. But certainly it's interesting in the landscape of Arizona women's basketball right now. Everybody making a change. How are all these programs going to kind of find their way? It's a fun time, but it's fun to see when it's kind of a wild card, when it's a mystery, right?
Yes. Yeah, it is. You have a fresh reset, a fresh canvas to paint a new piece of art on. And, you know, sometimes you paint something and it's gross and you toss it out. And sometimes you paint something and it's awesome and you frame it and then you start again later.
Or in our world, I'll throw it back. Like sometimes you make a thumbnail and you have an idea and you're like, this is really going to be cool. And then you look at it and you go, oh.
That was maybe the worst thing I've ever made.
We delete that Photoshop file probably forever. Let's just start from scratch.
Can we just get you a new laptop? I'm gonna go set this one on fire. But yeah, like Damon, we talked about, you know, Becky Burke. We don't know the circumstances under which she knows Lauren Swan. Erica brings up here.
Nice.
Important note, Lauren is from Queens, and when she was being recruited by mid-majors before joining Arizona, maybe a better relationship there than we already know, considering Becky was, you know, recruiting in Buffalo. So it kind of might be a Seth Dagey, Noah Fafita situation, you know, not to make a crazy comparison there, but it kind of feels like, you know, Seth Dagey, a coach that possibly was recruiting Noah Fafita when he was at USC, knows how good he is, knows how good he can be in the right situation. He didn't choose USC, and then he goes to Marshall, and all these years later you end up back with Noah Fafita.
Yeah.
So maybe that is a situation where Becky Burke has experience recruiting the Upper East Coast, would know that talent very well. And also, I'm interested to see the style, and this is kind of a break off on the topic here, but I am interested because of the Upper East Coast connection. We know how basketball is played in that area.
Yeah.
I wonder what Arizona's brand of basketball is going to be. I'm sure Becky Burke, has her own style that she always likes to run.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go to a new place and you have new players on a roster, and she's about to have 14 new players on a roster, like you're probably gonna have to change some things. We saw Tommy Lloyd have to change some things due to injury this past season with Krivas going down with the foot injury. He totally had to change his entire offense. So I'm interested to see if Arizona's gonna go like that, almost Big East style of basketball, where it's just like tough physical guards and stuff like that. I'm really interested to see the kind of players that Becky Burke can bring in, because you can't say that you're working with someone else's talent. You've only got your own people that you're going to be able to bring in, because there's no one else there, excluding Monte Adu. So, yeah, Damon, I'm excited to see what Becky Burke can do with a completely factory reset roster.
Yeah, I'm looking at kind of like the women's equivalent of KenPom right now. Did you know that Buffalo was the number 115 team in the country in the rankings? ASU was number 114 last year. So
learn something new every day.
They
Chad.
believe that Buffalo and Arizona State last year were on equal level. It would have been a great game, great battle between those two schools. One, of course, in the Mid-American Conference, and the other one in the Big 12. But
Chad, don't you just hate when there's a dream matchup in a sport and you just never get it, and your favorite people retire, and you're just thinking, damn, we never got LeBron Kobe in the finals? How'd that never happen? It was right there. One's in the West their whole career. One's in the East for most of their carear. How does it never happen?
Yeah.
Arizona State 114 in KenPom. Buffalo 115. How do we never get that?
The Bobby Hurley Bowl. That's what people call it. But Kevin, just looking at these numbers real quick, like super outside look at them. 3-point rate, Buffalo was 343rd in the country. So not shooting a ton of threes at all. One of the least 3-point shooting teams in all of women's basketball last year. And I think that these stats I'm about to outlay, like I will say, I'll preface it by saying, like, you kind of have to take them with a grain of salt, because she's going to be working hopefully with a significantly higher talent pool at Arizona than she would be at Buffalo. But play style could be fairly similar. Free throw percentage was one of the highest in the country, 31st. Assist rate extremely high at 46th in the country. So good ball movement on that offense. And then adjusted tempo, 65th. So although they're not shooting a bunch of threes, they were a very fast team, which I find pretty interesting, right? Because typically I feel like those things coincide a little bit these days. Like when you're running and gunning, you're shooting a ton of outside perimeter shots. And this team was not doing that, but they were getting up and down the floor. Very efficient from a turnover perspective, both offensively and defensively, forcing turnovers as well. Forced about 10 more turnovers per game than they gave up, Kevin. So, or not 10 more. I'm sorry, that's the percentage. 10% more. So yeah, I mean, I think all these underlying statistics are pretty good, and I think that they should give you a little bit of confidence that Becky Burke's going to come in here, want to run a fast kind of up tempo offense, and maybe play a little bit more fun brand of basketball than we've become accustomed to seeing. Because as much as like, I don't want to make this the Adia trashing show, because there's enough of that going on out here in the Arizona streets, and I think Kevin and I are both very like, thank you, Adia, for what you did for this program, and like
it was flawed.
Good things come to an end. Yeah, of course it was flawed.
It was certainly flawed, but we're definitely thankful for what she contributed to the program.
10 years from now, I won't be remembering the kind of the toxicity in this breakup. I'll be remembering the good times that we shared together, or be remembering the 2021 national championship.
Damn.
Like that's
very mature of you, Damon.
No, it's the reality of the situation. Like, we were a nothing basketball program before Adia Barnes took over. And, now we have a fan base that actually cares about this. And you can see by the level in which that everyone is talking about this new hire. Like, you could tell that Adia juiced up this community about, women's basketball. And for that, we should always be indebted to her. But that being said, Kevin, like, she didn't play a fun brand of basketball. She played like, jailhouse rules.
It was nasty.
Yeah.
It was nasty, yeah.
It was like, we're going to dig in on defense and score 50 points a game. And like, it was gross.
And it had to be, right? Because to Adia's credit, and this is something I've given Adia credit for on multiple occasions, I don't know if it's always on this show or just in general, this is a take I have, is that for all of Adia's faults as a head coach and as a manager of a locker room and whatever you want to criticize her about, those teams were, I know this has been a oversaturated word because of the men's basketball program this year, those teams were really damn gritty. Like for all the player turnover and for all the drama, for Adia to make sure those teams were always fighting, again, up until the very end when things kind of flamed away at the end there of her tenure, Adia's teams were always fighting. Adia's teams always played hard, always played tough. So the players that did want to play for Adia, or at least played for Adia, they played hard and they bought in. And whether that, mileage may vary on that buy-in, right? You might get 6 months down the road and you're burnt out and you don't want to buy in anymore.
Definitely.
But to Adia's credit, she can get a team to play damn hard, even if they're maybe not the most talented team on the court that night. So credit to Adia for that, and that's part of what I'll always remember about that run, the national title run as well. Some of the Jada Williams seasons here as well. But, Adia Barnes on her way out, Damon, did have some things to say, a lot of things to say. I don't know if you saw what we're going to talk about in the next segment, but I'm a surprise, Damon, with some Adia Barnes takes here after this quick break on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Don't go anywhere. Damon, our friends over at Carol Royce might just be the most wholesome people on the planet. Carol Royce came into our office, and I talk about this all the time because it was genuinely impactful to me. Preached to us about the importance of owning a home, owning your own place where you can stay and feel safe. Even if it's not your forever home, if it's your first home, hit up our friends over at Carol Royce. And even if you own a home now and you want to sell it and get into a different home, Carol Royce can help you out with that. And they're not just there to buy or sell, they're also there to help and teach you as well and guide you to your goals. If you have goals you don't know how to reach in relation to making your first purchase on a home or selling your first home, they will help you set goals, set a plan, and reach those goals. Our friends over at Carol Royce are the best in the business. They work with the best lenders to make sure you can have no financial worries going through this process. And not only that, they have the best guarantee in the business. They will guarantee to sell your home for 100% of the market value, or they'll just pay you the difference.
Say that one more time. That didn't make sense to me, Kevin.
You're getting market value no matter what is the point here. Because if Carol Royce, if you sell your home to them and they do not get you market value on it for 100%, Carol Royce will just pay you the difference. They'll just pay you the difference. And if you're considering a cash offer, don't settle for one. Get up to 6 of the best offers with at least one at 100% of market value, or Carol will pay the difference. So call Carol Royce today. You're going to make sure to write this number down at 480-776-5231, or visit Carol online at carolroyceteam.com and tell them PHNX sent you. That's carolroyceteam.com. Terms and conditions do apply.
That doesn't make any sense to me how that's a sustainable business model, but
we'll take it though.
I would say if you're looking in the home and you're in the home buying or selling market, like hit up Carol, because you're not going to get a better deal than that. No. And you're not going to get a better deal than with our friends over at Sanderson Ford. Sanderson Ford is the largest Ford dealership in America. And that's not Arizona, guys. That's the United States of America. And it's also, it's the most awarded Ford dealership as well, Kevin. We love our friends over at Sanderson Ford because they treat you like family over there. We went out there and they treated us all like family. It was great to get to meet all of those guys. Everybody loved the sales guy, Ron, who was, the star of our video that we made with our friends at Sanderson Ford, Kevin. And I'll tell you what, I love a truck. I love a good truck. And does it get any better than a Ford F-150? Does it get any better than a goddamn Raptor, Kevin? The Raptors are so fly,
so
dude.
Nasty.
Like, if you want a Raptor, go over to Sanderson Ford. They got them in stock over there, and they're unbelievable. Ford just announced from America for America employee pricing, guys. That's right. They're going to be giving you the employee prices on those vehicles.
In this economy?
Absolutely. And that's with the full lineup for a no pressure, no hassle, no pressure, no nonsense, and no added markups, Kevin. Employee pricing, it'll level the playing field for Ford dealers. Everyone gets the same set price no matter what. And choose Sanderson because they have a huge inventory, a 70-year reputation that they've built up, and they are America first. 80% of the vehicles Ford sells are assembled in factories located in the United States of America, And that's a big deal these days, Kevin, with what's going on around here. Required, this excludes the 2025 Expedition, though. It excludes the 2025 Super Duty. It does exclude the Raptors, the employee pricing, but, nonetheless, go get yourself a freaking sweet Raptor, the Mustang, and the specialty Broncos. But all of those other vehicles are going to be available at that employee discount. And also as well, Sanderson Ford, we talked about it with our golf tournament, Kevin. 2-year prepaid lease for a hole-in-one competition on a par 3. We are doing our golf tournament on Saturday. Make sure you guys head out there April 12th. Scramble at Dobson Ranch Golf Course, 2 p.m. shotgun start. There's going to be all kinds of events. We always have a great time when we go out to Dobson Ranch. We love our friends over there, and it's just so much fun. We're going to be giving away prizes at the end of it. There's going to be sponsored holes all throughout where you can win other prizes, and you're not going to be leaving empty-handed. We're going to feed you as well. I mean, it's just an unbelievable experience. You're going to want to make sure you sign up. Get yourself a foursome with you and 3 of your buddies. Maybe, instead of doing that, I think you can just sign up and we'll place you in your own foursome. So, if you just got one other friend that wants to go, you want to go by yourself and play with the people, make some new friends. All of that is available. Head on over to gophnx.com/events to get your tickets.
And if you're elite at golf, maybe you just want to be benevolent and just carry some team to a victory. If you just want to pop out and be the wild card, like, oh yeah.
First place gets sweet prizes. We've done this 3 golf tournaments now, and every time a first place prize is a absolutely cool thing that everybody would want. And also, if you're really good at golf, Kevin, and you feel like you can get a hole-in-one, you got to get that two-year prepaid lease on that Ford F-150.
I still can't believe they're like willing to put that out there.
That's nuts.
Can you say it one more time? You get a what if you get a hole-in-one?
A 2-year prepaid lease on a Ford F-150 Super Crew.
Not even just their base. I need it now. That's insane.
I actually need it. Erica says that she's a very talented golfer, and she's referring to herself in the third person, which is interesting.
I think it's possible that this women's basketball offseason has driven Erica to the point of insanity. Is that fair to say? Unfair to say? Talking about yourself in the third person, haven't been on the show, I don't know why. Maybe Erica's just,
we're trying to get her on. She's a busy woman.
I heard Erica just took a trip to the woods out in the desert, just hanging out with the saguaros and just started talking to them. That's what I heard.
Like some ayahuasca?
Yeah,
type vibe?
You remember that episode? Actually, no, more like a fugue state. Remember that episode of Breaking Bad where Walter has a fugue state and walks out into the desert and his family can't find him for like a day and a half, and
he's like in his underwear.
Yeah, he comes back in his underwear and he's like, "What happened?
Yeah,
I'm the man who knocks." You know what I mean? Like that kind of vibe for Erica. But Damon, part of what's driving Erica insane up the wall is the way that the women's basketball program has been going over the past couple of weeks, and part of that is the departure of Adia Barnes. And Adia Barnes never wanted to be silent on social media, Damon. Did you see her Facebook post that she left in the women's basketball fan chat?
I did not, Kevin. Would you mind bringing this up for us?
It is. Adia says goodbye. She says, "Last night I wanted to leave a message on this page. I want to thank you all. I want to thank all the fans that supported me in the program that loved us from day one. We changed Arizona women's basketball and put it on the map. It was such an incredible journey. Thank you for making me part of your lives for so many years. So many of you I've known since I was 17 years old, and you are still supporting women's basketball, and I love that. I wish that some of you knew and understand that I love Arizona. I love all my players, and I poured my heart and soul into the program. I came to Arizona when it was the lowest paying job in the Power 5. No one could recruit talent to Tucson on the women's side, and the program was a mess. We changed things. We were relentless recruiters. We went out and served the community. Then people came. We won a ton with limited resources. Now that there is the portal, you cannot sustain success without resources. So naturally, you will lose 5 to 7 players per year when they don't get paid. Good coaches without resources will improve players for the next team. I wish Arizona nothing but the best. Continue to support women's basketball and continue the legacy that we worked so hard to build. Bear down, Adia."
You want my thoughts on that?
Comments, concerns?
I like the ending of the message, trying to galvanize people to continue to support Arizona women's basketball. I'm happy for her that she's now going to be in a situation at SMU where I'm certain that they have resources because they were willing to pay her buyout.
She also wouldn't have gone there if they didn't promise her resources, I'm assuming.
Yeah, probably
based
not.
Based on the gripe she had here.
Supposedly, I think they paid Arizona $300,000, I think, to buy out Adia's contract, which is a nice chunk of change for Arizona to then give to Becky Burke in the meantime. But I don't love the portion about the how difficult the job became. I think that people that are aware of the situation and care enough to be aware about the situation know that and are very aware of that, Kevin. And to me, that's like, it feels like it's excuse making, really, at the end of the day. And again, like, this isn't the Adia hate podcast. We're not going to do that. Like, Kevin and I both appreciate Adia for what she did for this program, and she's right about a lot of that, right? Like, she did put Arizona women's basketball on the map. This program was a joke before she took over. It was the lowest paying job in Power 5. She didn't make that up. Like, it was hard to recruit these players, and she had to do what Jed Fish did with the football program and like work twice as hard as everybody else to get these kind of players, right? Like, Arizona put so much resources into getting T-Mac to come to Arizona, way more than Oregon did. And that's why he ended up going to Arizona. It's a similar situation, right? Like, I'm sure when Sam Thomas, who was the first, top 100 recruit that Adia Barnes got at Arizona, when she got her, I'm sure it was because she was relentless in attacking that recruitment, relentless in getting Sam Thomas to be an Arizona Wildcat. And so in that circumstance, you have to like, all of that is true. And we have to appreciate Adia for that. But at the same time, not the biggest fan of that second-ish paragraph that she wrote there, Kevin.
It felt to me, and again, I agree with everything you had to say about how she is not wrong in that first half of the message.
She's not wrong in any part of it.
Everything, correct. But everything she said, I'm specifically talking about the top half, was correct. But as I was reading that and I was talking with our guy Noah about this, I was like, did she just butter me up? Like, she went through all that, like, hey, we did this. We put this on the map. When I came here, it was this. And then she kind of buttered you up to then just, like, complain about you in the middle. You know what I mean? Where it was like, hey, you're awesome, Damon. I love being your co-host. But towards the end here, it's just gotten too contentious. And what would you expect me to do working with a guy like you?
But your Twitter game, it kind of got old.
Yeah. And it's like,
and I don't know if I can do this anymore.
And to me, it was like,
which that might happen.
And again, to your point, Damon, like, the fans that are in that Facebook group know the context of the team. If you are in the Arizona women's basketball fan Facebook group,
so true.
You know what's going on with the program. Like, you just don't stumble your way into that, respectfully. Yeah. You don't. And so I felt like that was it was a very pointed way of saying, I tried my best, I did what I could, but damn it, Arizona just didn't help me out enough. What did you expect?
Yeah.
How do you expect this to end? And I feel like that was just kind of a petty way to be about it. Again, she was not wrong. She was in every right to be that way about it, especially if she felt like she wasn't getting the resources that she needed to succeed at her job. I would also probably feel possibly a little bit petty about it. But I just felt like she was kind of in that message. And again, this is not the Adia Barnes Hate podcast. But it did feel like in that message that, like, she's kind of just buttering you up. This is why your program sucks and will continue to not be good because they're not going to pour resources into it. But don't stop going to the games. Don't stop supporting the girls. Don't stop, supporting the program, the sport of women's basketball as a whole. That's how I read the message.
I like the first third, the third third, and I hate the second.
Yeah, the intro and the conclusion, fire. Yeah, but your body paragraph is why you got a D on this essay. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
Actually, that's like a C+ essay. I would say.
It was a C.
Yeah, because she didn't lie anywhere in there. It was mostly good, well written. There was one program typo in there. Adia Barnes is good.
That was our Tate triple option tweet with 2 P's.
Yeah. No, because I was gonna say, like, Adia is good for one typo per long message. You know what I mean?
I can't hate.
No, I'm not hating. It's more so funny. Like, I think
typos.
It's endearing. I think it's endearing, and I think it's funny. Because all it takes is one little proofread. But everyone makes those mistakes. I just think it's funny. That in, like, your goodbye message, you wouldn't, like, read it back and be like, oh, I said program with 2 M's.
Yeah, I'm with you. I want to talk more about this, but first we got to get on the other side of this break. But yeah, we're going to get back to that message and just kind of like what I guess lies underneath it, and so we'll do that right after the break here on the AZ Wildcats pod. Let's talk about our friends at Branded Bills first, Kevin. I love Branded Bills. I am wearing my Branded Bills hat right now. It is the most comfortable hat in the business. We got the bear down one, Kevin, right behind me here. You can see it. So
clean.
We got the PHNX flag hat right there with the gray. And let's start looking at some of these other ones, right? How about that red? How about that red with the rope, similar to the one I got on right now? How about the dad hat, Kevin?
I'm a dad hat guy.
You are a dad hat guy.
I am a dad hat guy.
And brother, you look damn good in a dad hat.
Thanks, man.
How about this bear down one and a little rope hat action? That's pretty sweet as well. I got another one over here, a little far to reach. But my God, Kevin, if Branded Bills doesn't have the best, most premium headwear and apparel in the business, and if you're an Arizona fan, there is literally nowhere else that you should be getting your hats, right? I was at an Arizona football game earlier this year. Jason Gardner was sitting one row ahead of me wearing a Branded Bills dad hat.
Ever heard of that guy? That guy's got some swag.
Oh, is his jersey up in the rafters?
He's got some swag.
Oh, is it up in the rafters? Yeah, he's also an Arizona coach wearing a Branded Bills hat. Branded Bills has, at the bookstores now, Kevin, they have their own special section, the campus collection. Unbelievable stuff. Kevin saw some limited edition ones last time he was there. Kevin, we got to head out there when we go to the spring football game.
I'm missing the Mexican food in Tucson, so I will be making a pilgrimage back home.
Little quick Maiko shout out last night on Kevin's. He didn't remember the name of it, but that's
I
okay.
remembered. I just didn't want to get too specific.
Your boys got him. Oh, you remembered it? Okay.
I did. I swear.
Right, fair enough. Kevin and I used to live in the same apartment complex in college, so didn't know each other, but
we both were rocking Branded Bills back in the day.
We were rocking Branded Bills and eating the best Mexican food in the business, but. Go to the bookstore, guys. Check out the campus collection. Branded Bills, it's unbelievable stuff. You can use promo code PHNX and get 20% off your first order. It is a local company. They are based out of Mesa, Arizona. They love Arizona athletics, and they want to contribute to this program and this athletic department. So go support them. Go support local. Head on over to brandedbills.com. Use code PHNX for 20% off your first order.
And if you're in the business of saving money with our promo codes, ain't no better way to do it than learning how to actually save your money without using a promo code. And that's our friends over at Monarch Money. And, we do throw a promo code so you can save money on using Monarch. But the main point of Monarch is to manage your finances. Because, Damon, I don't know if, you're aware, but I don't know. I guess I was going to say, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I have a ton of streaming services. I use Uber sometimes. I use rideshare stuff. And it just sucks all my money out of my bank account.
Yeah.
And at the end of the week, I look at it and I'm like, oh, expenditure. Like, I don't know where it's all going. Monarch Money can sort all that out for you. It's like your personal CFO. And it's one of the most important things in life is how to manage your money so you can set yourself up for the life that you actually want to have for yourself. And we can help you with 50% off of your first year of Monarch for our listeners with code PHNX when you go to monarchmoney.com. Because like I said, I'm trying to save up money. I got a trip to Atlanta I'm taking in June. That I'm pretty excited for. So I'm trying to save up some money for that. And so, Monarch Money's helping me out with that. Get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. Use code PHNX at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year with monarchmoney.com, code PHNX.
Gotta save if you're, getting ready for a vacation. Monarch Money's the best way to do it. Kevin, what are you going to Atlanta for?
My girlfriend's brother is competing in a lifting competition down there.
Wow.
So we are going just to visit.
So your girlfriend's brother could beat your ass.
Oh, 1,000%.
Damn.
Yeah.
Bad spot to be in.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say he couldn't because he could. They're both her brothers, both older and younger, are
my boy Kevin is not a fighter. He is a lover at heart.
Because this is where I was going. I'm not a fighter, but they also don't seem like fighters is my point. They also seem like kind guys. One of them collects Pokemon cards on the side, cuts hair. He's a very nice dude. Shout out Joel and Joran. But they're both going to be competing down there in Atlanta. So I'm excited to go down there, visit, maybe see some, some cool sights and sounds. I've always wanted to go down to Atlanta. So I'm excited.
Yeah. As you should be, Kevin. That sounds like a great time. Atlanta, low-key, not as hot as I thought it was. I went in July a couple summers ago, and it was way more temperate than I would have imagined it being, given that it's the deep south there. But you'll have a good time, man.
And yes, we are going to the spring game, Erica. Damon and I will be there April 19th for the spring game.
We certainly will. We're pumped up about it, and we're pumped up to kind of showcase this program and what we got going on with obviously a lot of turnover in the roster, but I think a lot to be excited about as well. So we're thrilled to hopefully be a part of that. And we will be down there no matter what. That's a fact. But we're going to try to do some really cool stuff with it as well. So stay tuned for all of that. But yeah, Kevin, getting back to kind of that Adia message, I think I love the point you made in the last segment, which is everybody that's in that Facebook group is locked in on women's basketball. This is not a situation where these people are ignorant to what the program is and was and what's going on, right? So when you're laying that out there like that, it's almost as if you're trying to like kind of just like galvanize people behind you and get them on your side.
Yeah, it's like, hey, now when you remember 5 years from now how this went down, remember that I wasn't supported, but I did all this in the top paragraph, and then was not supported, and then what do you expect? Now I'm gone.
It seems unnecessary, and I think that there's a higher road that you could take in that situation, especially as a former player, especially as the greatest coach in program history. Like, I think that there's a way in which you could just go about that differently and leave that portion out of it, right? Because we all know that the resources here are not going to be on a level that maybe she had come to expect or that she desired, right? And here's the thing. I've heard some people talking about Adia's spending habits and all of that and just like getting away with going over budget and whatnot. I would argue that that's what good coaches do, Kevin. That's what Jed Fish did to this athletic department too. Like, Jed Fish put us in a bad spot financially. That being said, Jed Fish also raised the level of this football program from a team that could not win a football game to beating Oklahoma in a pretty major bowl game, right? Like, sometimes you have to spend a lot of money to grow, right? And if Becky Burke is successful, right, and shows that she's worth more than what's going on in terms of financially with Arizona in year 1, year 2 and whatnot, she's going to want more money down the line too. And rightfully so. So I'm not going to get mad at Adia Barnes for spending money, for having a lot of resources. And I think that it's fair to say that the reality of the situation was she got accustomed to those resources. That's how she was able to bring in these big time recruiting classes. That's, that's respect to her, like, for being able to get the job done on that. That's pretty awesome. That being said, like, we don't have the sustainability to do that anymore. And Desiree was brought in to fix the financial situation around Arizona. And in part, I think she looked at the women's basketball program and thought to herself, the juice is not worth the squeeze here. And that's where Adia was, in a way, Adia in a way was hung out to dry in that they were going to let her coach and be a lame duck coach for her final year of her contract. It's impossible to recruit doing that. You're going to be horrible doing that because they didn't want to pay her buyout. And
she would have been miserable.
Yeah, it would, and we would have been miserable because it would have been a horrible season. And knowing Adia and how outspoken she is and whatnot, there would have been problems caused.
Next year, if Adia was miserable, we would have been miserable.
Yeah, and that's why Adia was kind of trying to throw herself out there for all these other jobs. I think because she saw the writing on the wall. She knew she wasn't being renewed. She knew she was a lame duck coach in waiting. All of that is factual stuff, and there's no reason to get mad about any of that. Like, it's so obvious to me, Kevin, and you see all these people online that are like getting like freaking out about Adia, or they'll like talk about lack of resources. Like, guys, that's what's going on here. Desiree was not going to renew her contract because she didn't see the viability in spending that much money on women's basketball. Where I'm at with it, Kevin, and I was talking to my parents about this yesterday, and I think that you need to. I think it needs to, like, this is priority number 1 now. Caitlin Lowe and Chip Hale's contracts expire not after this season, but after next season. So at the end of this season, they're going to be in the same spot that Adia was in, right? Going into next year, which was her season just ended, and she has 1 season left on her contract. Chip Hale is currently competing for the Big 12 title in baseball and just won the Pac-12 title in baseball. Caitlin Lowe has been to a College World Series, right? Is consistently kind of upticking this program from when she took over, not from what Mike Candrea did, but from where her first year to now. Arizona's competing in the Big 12 in softball. If this happens again, that's where panic button is fully out on the table. If this is a similar situation where where we're sitting here going, is the juice worth the squeeze with football? And if you're watching with our streaming partners, head on over to gophnx.com. And we're going to continue this discussion. But like, you can speak to this. I want to throw it to you, Kevin. But my concern level is currently fairly high when it comes to football, or to baseball and softball now, the diamond sports, because clearly I'm not saying we've punted on women's basketball. I like the Becky Burke hire, and I think that there's upside there for sure. But we clearly are taking a step back.
Your value bin shopping right now.
Yeah, we're going to Dollar Tree.
Yeah,
and
you were shopping at Target. Now you're going to Dollar Tree.
And I'm not saying that about the coach in particular. No. It's more about the roster.
It's about the roster and the budget as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
But you're looking at baseball and softball with those contracts expiring. If Desiree doesn't get a deal done with those two coaches, Kevin, at the end of their season, that's extremely concerning to me. And that would be three prominent alums in Chip Hale and Caitlin Lowe, who are all-time players for both of those programs, similar to Adia Barnes, who, joined on probably thinking that they were going to be here forever, and then potentially being like, oh, we're actually not investing in baseball because we're focusing fully on men's basketball. And we should focus mostly on men's basketball, but there are 5 sports that I care about in particular investing heavily in, and those are 2 of them. And I don't want to see a similar situation happen with Adia happen to Caitlin Lowe and Chip Hale. So I think that's something that we need to monitor.
That's scary.
It's horrifying.
I will say I hadn't really thought about that until you had brought it up. And I will say, shout out to both of your parents. They seem like very wise individuals. I feel like every time you bring up, hey, I was talking to my parents about this, it's like the smartest idea I've ever heard. So keep talking to your parents. Stay in contact with those that you love.
They don't need that. It's my dad's birthday, by the way. Shout out my dad.
Happy birthday, big dog. The biggest dog, actually. The bigger dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dennis dog?
The head dog.
Dennis dog? Anyway,
never heard that one before.
Anyway, shout out to everybody in the chat as well today.
Shout out the dog family.
Yeah, shout out to the dog family. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Like I was saying to Damon, make sure you tap in with somebody you love today. But in response to what you were asking me, Damon, it is scary. And I do think that if in a hypothetical scenario that was to take place and they did reach an impasse in the contract negotiation with both softball and baseball, that would be panic on the table, right? I don't know if that's like, obviously it's in the cards, but I feel like one of those two at least has to be clearly a priority. Like,
both of them.
No, I agree, but I'm saying like, excuse me, but I'm saying like if the budget is that tight, you can't lose them both. You can't lose either of them. But it's terrifying if you lose both those coaches, Damon, because those are the two. Look, softball is a pillar of Arizona athletics. Like softball is like, I don't even know how to express the importance of softball at the University of Arizona. It is one of the foundational building blocks of the entire athletic program. I would be shocked. I would be completely shocked if Caitlin Lowe and Chip Hale did not reach contract extensions with Arizona, because I think it would be malpractice from a DRF perspective to not retain those two.
I would say, I'd go as far to say, Kevin, is that when Arizona softball was foundational in terms of women's athletics.
Correct.
The NCAA.
Very well put.
Like one of the more influential programs in the history of any sport for women. I could be getting this wrong, could be speaking out the side of my mouth, so take it with a grain of salt. But I'm pretty sure that Mike Candrea changed we're not wearing shorts on the softball field anymore. We're wearing pants. And that was it was kind of a big deal back in the day.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. So Chip Hale is currently making about $500,000, give or take, but bonuses not factored in, annual increases not factored in. Caitlin Lowe is making less than that, obviously.
Not enough.
Caitlin Lowe's making $250K about. Those are not unreasonable contracts. Arizona was looking to bring back Jay Johnson before he left to LSU for $1 million. They signed Adia Barnes to $1 million contract. I would be dismayed with this athletic department if we sat there, Kevin, and it's like, we just gave Tommy Lloyd a new contract, but everybody else has to wear the brunt of that. And right now, that's what's happening, right? Because we kept Brent Brennan, right? She didn't want to pay the buyout. So Brent Brennan is here at Arizona. Okay?
All right.
We lost Adia Barnes. We let her walk away. We wanted her to leave because we wanted to spend less money. Okay. Now our two diamond sports that are both very competitive are going into the final year of their contract. All right. So what are we prioritizing other than men's basketball? I'm fine with that being the priority. 100% should be. No one is arguing otherwise. But where is the rest of the money? This is an athletic department it's all the way around, Kevin. And it's like, those 5 sports, I think like I was super, super locked in on those 5 sports being like the things that like, we invest all of our resources into. And we punted on 2 of them for sure, at least for next year. Like, can we not do that with baseball and softball when they're successful programs going good? DRF was brought in here to fix the financial situation around Arizona athletics. That is what she's doing. But I'm saying that like my concern level about what is going on is definitely raised with all of this, and I think like it's disingenuous to believe that that's not the case.
You're on edge as you should be, and I think that the way I'm looking at this, and I think that again I appreciate you bringing it up because I hadn't really thought about it in that context, and it is a very important subplot to all of this. Damon is the contract security of some of the 2 most important coaches on campus at the time. I also wanted to bring Tommy Lloyd didn't get his extension until like a week or 2 after the season ended.
And there were rumors that DRF was kind of going back and forth with Tommy in terms of like not really giving him what he wanted necessarily. Like
it wasn't just an open check.
It was more of a negotiation type of deal. And with Tommy Lloyd, it's like I don't feel comfortable doing that really. I kind of want to just give him everything he wants.
Yeah, and I think I'll say all that to say this: if the softball and baseball seasons end and you are 3 weeks or more out, and there's not even rumor of an extension, now I think panic button enters the table. I think for now you're on edge, but you're kind of chilling. You're on edge, but it's in the back of your head. I'm
with you.
I agree. You're chilling, but it's something to monitor and think about later. But for now, I'm not too concerned with it. But it is something that, again, if the seasons end and there's not rumor of an extension, you are kind of looking around like, guys, the season's over. They can be negotiated with. Guys, they're not busy. Guys, get them now. Like you have to do. Yeah, it has to be like that.
It makes it impossible for them to recruit too. It's the same thing as Adia, right?
Where and Chip Hale is kind of entering a stride right now in terms of talent he's bringing. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to cut that off right now. You don't want to cut that off at maybe its peak. Like you don't know what Chip Hale can do recruiting wise going forward because of the success that he's had not only with local talent but also international talent, which is kind of crazy on the baseball field. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it certainly is. I'm not going to say it's not doomsday. The sky's not falling yet, Kevin, but certainly like just playing devil's advocate and just kind of bringing this to everybody's attention. I think it bears monitoring. Like we need to invest into the diamond sports to feel like that this athletic department is not just like taking a full downturn, right? Because it wasn't 3 years ago that we're sitting here being like, man, we're on top of the freaking world right now. We have so many good coaches that are.
Is Arizona one of the best athletic programs of all time? Like, is this what's happening right now?
It felt pretty well-rounded, man, and now it seems like it's like, as I'll say again, men's basketball priority, absolutely, and that should be the case. But the other sports, like, I don't want them to take a full back seat. And, probably need more donor support. Josue is trying to talk me off the ledge here, saying give it a couple years. School should be better off by then. Certainly hope you're right. And I'm not saying that that's impossible. Not saying that that's not what's even happening. Not saying that Chip Hale and Caitlin Lowe aren't in Desiree's office right now negotiating a contract. Like, I'm not privy to that kind of stuff. But it's just, from an outside perspective, it's concerning to me, Kevin. And we saw how it played out with Adia. And Adia was an extreme example as well because she was making way more money than both of those coaches, right? But it's just something that you gotta think about as Arizona fans here.
It is something to think about, Damon. And you all know in the chat. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Damon and I are going to keep you locked in on all of that as things continue to evolve and go forward, Damon. Because the Diamond Sports do need to remain relevant at Arizona because you don't have an Arizona athletic program if you don't have those two
that's our history,
pillars.
man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's what you stand on. Everyone stands on the shoulders of somebody, and a lot of Arizona athletes stand on the shoulders of baseball and softball players these days. So, yeah, it is something to monitor, something to potentially worry about later down the road. And hopefully DRF, if she is the AD that fans believe that she is, will get this handled, and it'll all be, daisy on the other end.
Certainly. It's not it's not the cleanest of situations. We're clearly not in the spot of some other universities in this NIL era of just being like resources up the wazoo. But I would like to think that we have more resources than we've been showing recently, and hopefully we're just getting things back on track, and then we're ready to pounce and be more aggressive after that. But that's going to have to play out over the course of a few years here, Kevin. Did we want to talk a little bit of Carter Bryant before we got out of here?
We can talk a little bit of Carter Bryant tomorrow, I feel like.
Okay.
Save it for the show tomorrow. Talk some Carter Bryant tomorrow. It's been about 2 weeks since the season ended, and he still has yet to make any announcement of any kind in regard to anything. And what does that mean? Damon and I can talk about that a little bit tomorrow as well with Erica L. Day.
Of course, Erica, feel free to come on as long as you want to tomorrow. We'll give you the floor a little bit as well. But
ISO.
Yeah. Clear out. Well, you know what? Me and Kevin will just be off screen. We'll solo shot Erica the entire time, and then we'll just be here for backup.
Welcome to the ED. Welcome to the Erica Wildcats podcast. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The Erica Day podcast.
Definitely not ED. Let's not do that
the
anymore.
ED podcast. That's a different vibe. Don't Google that.
No, do not do that. I think that's going to do it for us today. A full women's basketball pod for the people, Kevin. I mean, don't we just do it all?
We do.
Talk about a couple versatile players.
Multi-tool guys.
Yeah, talk about a couple guys that are just, you say, hey, coach, you put me where you want me because I'm willing to just give everything for the team.
Type of guy like me, I just tell coach, you say jump, I say how high. You say run, I say how fast. You know what I mean? That's what we do for you, chat. We appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in today.
We absolutely do. Make sure you guys like this video if you haven't already. 18 likes, not enough for my guy, Kevin. Kevin, I didn't get good sleep last night. I think it was because of the lack of like numbers. I'm starting
to think they just like messing with us. Like, right? I'm starting to think they just like us being insomniacs. But please, people, we need sleep to have functioning brains. Sleep is where your brain resets every night. So please like this video. Let me and Damon get some good rest.
Yeah, and someone put here in the chat yesterday, I got to take their advice. Creatine actually has sleep performance enhancing abilities, and I think, Kevin, we're gonna have to start playing with that, but it won't be the same as getting the likes.
It's not. It's that artificial stuff.
Yeah.
That likes is that real.
It's natural.
It's that real. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate everybody for being here. This is, we're going to, as much as, we're trying to be nuanced here and talk about the gray areas involving Adia. And I think, Kevin, we took time today in part defending Adia, but in part criticizing Adia. Like it's totally a back and forth, right? It is not black and white like a lot of people want to make it out to be. And, we're going to try to continue to provide that kind of nuance and coverage for you. But we're going to be here, as always, talking Arizona athletics, no matter what it is. If it's the big story, Kevin and I got you covered. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to talk to Erica Day about this hire and get her thoughts on it when she's a little bit more free. We're also going to talk some more Arizona basketball. What is Carter Bryant going to do? Fallout of Braden Burry's coming back. All that and more tomorrow on the AZ Wildcats podcast at noon. But until then, I am Damon Dog. You can follow me at Damon DAWG. He is Kevo Post. That's KEVOPOSTS. We are at PHNX_Wildcats. Give us a follow as well. Subscribe to this channel. Turn those notifications on so you know when we're going live, no matter what. And until then, Kevin, peace out. Bear down.
And go Cats!
We all silly like the mayor.